Hello, and welcome to episode 12.4. I am James. In this episode, we will discuss the various causes of language change. Language change happens very gradually. Thus, it is almost impossible to identify exactly what caused the change and why it happened. Usually, a change occurs due to several factors occurring together. In the episodes about the history of English, I already explained many of these reasons. Firstly, present-day English is essentially a mixture of several languages due to invasions and borrowings, usually as a result of trade and cultural links. In the earlier periods, this was from Scandinavian, French, Latin, and Greek. And later, this was due to the expansion of the British Empire and subsequent immigration to the UK. For example, the phrase running amok came from Malay, shampoo came from Hindi, and wok came from Cantonese. Secondly, the increasing move towards standardization of English caused many changes to take place. Firstly, the standardization of spelling began with Caxton's printing press in 1476, as it selected one dialect as Standard English and made consistent spelling widely available for the first time. Johnson's 1755 dictionary mostly ended this journey towards standardization, as it firmly established the spelling used in present-day English. Secondly, the 1700s saw the beginning of the standardization of English grammar. Several linguists published books explaining English grammar rules, the most famous being Lowth's in 1762. As a result, late modern English grammar is much more fixed than in previous periods. Thirdly, societal changes, such as industrialization, scientific progress, and new technology, have caused a lot of new words to enter the language, such as spacesuit, microwave, email, and download. There is one more cause of language change that we haven't discussed so far. All languages automatically and unconsciously want to be as efficient as possible. This is known as the principle of least effort or the economy of effort. Therefore, when a language is too complex to be easily used, the inefficient aspects will be simplified over time. The loss of inflections during the Middle English and early modern English periods are an obvious example. I'm sure you'll agree that using fixed word order to identify the subject, verb, and object is simpler than using suffixes, especially because there were several affixes depending on the form of the word. Another example of this principle is the move towards the regularization of English, which aims to make English grammar as consistent as possible. If something is regular, then it uses the most widespread pattern. If something is irregular, then it uses a rare pattern. To demonstrate this, let's use plural on nouns and past tense on verbs. Irregular English grammar is a relic from Old English, when there were two main ways of forming these. Add a suffix, of which there were several, or change the vowel inside the word. In present-day English, the regular rule is that plural is marked with S, and past tense is marked with ED. And most nouns and verbs use these rules. However, there are still a few irregular examples of nouns. Person, people. Ox, oxen. Fish, fish. Foot, feet. And there are a few examples of irregular verbs. Fit, fit. Awake, awoke. Bet, bet. Burn, burnt. Dive, dove. Outshine, outshone. These irregular forms are all Standard English. However, for most of them, a non-standard form, which is in fact a regular form, is slowly becoming more common. Persons, oxes, fishes, fitted, awaked, betted, burned, dived, outshined. All these forms may well become Standard English in the future, and when they do, the irregular forms will eventually become archaic. Because the users of English use these regular forms based on an analogy with other regular nouns and verbs, this type of change is called analogic change. Finally, the principle of least effort can explain phonological change, because some words have changed in order to become easier to say. Two main processes have taken place. Firstly, omission happens when a sound is lost from a word. This often happens at the end of words because this part of a word has the least stress. For example, in present-day English, the past tense of have and give is had and gave. But in Middle English was hadst and gavest. Similarly, the B at the end of tomb, lamb, and thumb is no longer pronounced, but thimble still has it. Omission can sometimes happen inside words too. The L in folk and salmon and the P in receipt have been lost. More recently, the accent in the south of England began to lose the y sound in news, from news to news. Also, in during, the first two consonants have blended into j, from during to during for most speakers. Secondly, assimilation happens when a sound is influenced by the sound next to it. We discussed this in detail in the unit about phonology. The prefix in has developed three other forms due to assimilation. N is alveolar, and because it is difficult to say in before words that do not begin with an alveolar sound, the n has changed to match the first sound. In plus correct is incorrect. Im plus possible is impossible. Ill plus logical is illogical. I plus rational is irrational. Now, please answer some questions. Thank you for watching.